Welcome to the October 2nd meeting of the Board of Health. This meeting is being recorded in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20F. And now we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Matt. Let's see, let's look at Matt's. Do you have any comments about Matt's written report?
I do not.
Either do I. So we can move on to the oral report.
Yeah, I'm just gonna, recite what I put on the written report, which is on, we had the vaccine clinic on the 22nd. Flu and RSV vaccinations were offered, and approximately 50 people were vaccinated that night. Linda has some flu clinics scheduled. September 28th, we had one at Westport Housing Authority. October 5th, we have one at Edgewater. On 10/6, we have one at Nokechoke Village. I think there's one on the 3rd as well over at the Council on Aging. I have to double check with her. And then on 12th at Village Way. Barn books are underway, so the animal inspectors are out doing barn book inspections, and we'll have those completed by the end of December. Annual landfill and transfer station inspections were completed. There was no violations reported. And we recently had the landfill mowed, and I don't anticipate to have to do that again until the summer of '24. So that's where we're at with things.
Didn't we have the sheep take care of that?
That was inside the solar array fence
Okay.
that they took care of that.
That's a good way to do it, really,
It is.
because you don't have to worry about hitting anything or cutting a wire. Okay, so we don't have any minutes to review. And so other business, we're first going to take up 81 Benoit Street and consideration of whether it is unfit for human habitation.
Come on up, Joe.
Come on up, Joe.
I will just lead into this with saying that we received a complaint. I had Joe go out and investigate. I believe the police department ended up having to get an administrative warrant to get in. So I'll let you take it from there and see what you found and all that.
Yeah, pretty much that's exactly that. And the police wound up getting the magistrate, giving the guy a warrant so that we can get in based on the report that someone who was taking care of the dogs called him. Upon entry to the house, basically, we found an extensive amount of fecal matter from the dogs spread throughout the basement area. Based on the individual taking care of the dogs, the property owner had only been out of town for several days, and based on what we've seen, it just didn't match up. Currently, they have a restoration company there tearing through the house. Property owner was told that for her safety and well-being, that's why there was an order in place that she could not occupy the house. It was unfit for human habitation. Follow-up inspection of the location, I noticed a vehicle in the driveway. Upon knocking at the door, I found the property owner occupying. I explained to her why she couldn't, for her well-being. She assured me she was going to be stepping out, find alternate location to stay at in the meantime. Earlier today, once again, I drove by, met with the restoration people who were basically gowned up, adding supplemental air into the house and evacuating the problematic air out of the house while they were tearing up the basement level. So that's ongoing.
The basement level floor?
The property at 80...
81 Benoit
81
Street.
Benoit Street.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, I just didn't, I don't remember,
Most of the photos you see there are the basement level. that
Oh, I
is-
see,
That is
okay.
furnished.
okay, because it looks here like finished wood and stuff.
Yeah, it's a
So-
laminate floor.
So the dogs were down in the basement? Or do they have
I
free
see.
reign over the house?
Well, they were down in the basement, and apparently the company that was taking care of the dogs, once they seen what was down there, they made an attempt at cleaning some, and were instructed not to do so by the people who operate the business. They opened the upstairs door, and the dogs proceeded to go upstairs also.
Oh, I see, okay.
There was some evidence that the upstairs apartment, or upstairs section, there had been some issues up there at one point or another, but primarily it was downstairs.
So I wasn't here when you had a meeting about this earlier, or in another meeting, but there were people that were supposed to be taking care of the pets, but weren't?
Yeah, there's a company called the Rover. Company Rover, I guess you can hire if you're going away on vacation. They'll come over and they'll care for your pets daily. They make them over once a day, twice a day. Take your dog, take your pets out. So they take care of business, make sure they're fed properly, and keep an eye on things in the event, something happens with dog has to go to a vet.
So is this the first time they entered the house? Did they find the house like this?
According to the report I got from the police, the report that they received from the individual who's employed by Rover, yes.
Okay.
The individual apparently left on the 12th. This call was placed to Nick with Animal Control on the weekend of the 16th, leading to the visit right around the
Okay.
18th.
And how are the dogs now? Did you know anything
The
about the
dogs look fine, based on what the property owner tells me. One of the dogs apparently is incontinent, and this happens frequently.
Hmm.
The dogs are still, I followed up with Nick, the dogs are still at the shelter. And it's really between the shelter and the homeowner now when the dogs can be released. Based on, that the shelter was trying to see if they're vaccinated and they're in good health. All that needs to be determined before they're released back. And of course, the property has to be re-inspected by us before anybody can move back in to make sure it's habitable again.
Okay. And we would
Yeah.
do that after
After we get the final report from the restoration company, there is an attorney, Barabino, who I've been in communication with, who's been hired by the property owner, and he's well aware what needs to be done, and any progress reports before and after will be forwarded to the Board of Health before anyone can reoccupy that location.
Well, I agree with you, it's really inconsistent with the amount of, feces and how widespread it is, whether the dog is incontinent or not, unless, they just left bags of food on the floor, and the dogs could just eat as much and whenever they want, but even so. So is there an action that you're asking us to do today, given?
Yeah, so what, in the housing code, it allows us to, when we go out to these situations, it allows us to deem a property unfit for human habitation and issue an order to vacate prior to having this go before the board if the situation is so immediate.
Right.
So that's what we did, and now, but we still have to come before the board and present it to the board and just have them affirm our decision.
Okay.
a question that I'm looking at this picture, and the amount of feces, the amount of excrement in this one particular area the floor is almost completely covered. Is this something we can show the public, this picture?
I suppose it's public record, it's not illegal. but it's up to you.
I just, I don't know, Val, are you able to zoom in on this picture?
Yeah, I got it on, so you can leave it as long as you want.
Okay, the only reason why I want to show this is that, so the public is aware of some of the conditions the Board of Health is called in to inspect and respond to. I don't think that if they don't see, what we're seeing, then they may even further question what our responses are. So I think it's important to show that this is just one picture of many, to show what we're responding to in the community.
Well, I would move to affirm the emergency decision that the conditions in the house made it uninhabitable.
Just to make it clear also that
I'm sorry.
Did you have something else
Okay.
to say?
yeah, I just want to make sure, those are the photos that we have based on our investigation. The detectives from the Westport Police Department went in with their team, and they have basically duplicate photos of what they took. So basically, we conducted the same type of inspection room to room.
And I also think it's important that the community know that we work with other agencies in town to address some of these concerns in the community. So, Phil, you moved that we affirm the emergency decision?
Yes.
And I second that.
All in favor?
Aye. Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Reese, for doing such a great job.
Thanks, Joe.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda has to do with the septic system tax credit. And I think we have been mentioning this a couple of times in previous meetings. This was part of Governor Healy's broader tax reduction bill, and it was brought before the legislature, who created a committee to look over what some of the provisions were. And one of them specifically dealt with this septic system tax credit, and which has been on the books for a while. And this is a credit related to a direct reduction of your tax, not of the amount you're being taxed, not simply a deduction in the determination of what you owe, but when your final tax obligation is determined, this amount comes directly off that. And in summary, there are 4 or 5 different factors in which were applied to determine the amount of deduction. And overall, all those factors were increased for the benefit of the homeowner who chooses to or is required to upgrade or replace a failed septic system. And so, for example, the amount of the eligible expense that you can take credit for is 60% of the cost of the system. The maximum eligible credit was moved from $15,000 to $30,000. The annual maximum credit was moved from $1,500 to $4,000. And there's a provision that allows for the carry forward. So if your credit in any year is more than $4,000, you can carry it forward to the next tax year, and you can do that for an additional 5 years to a maximum of $18,000. So, so I just kind of did a back of the envelope calculation that, you know, if your taxable income was $70,000, I think the median income, which is 50% above and below, the median income in Westport is around $85,000 or $86,000. So I just picked for a round number that, say your taxable income was $70,000, so 5% of that would be $3,500, and your maximum annual credit would be, in the first year, would be 0, and then you could carry forward that for the next 5 years up to $18,000. So if you had a $30,000 system, you've really saved what I crunched to be it almost equates to a 0% loan, a 20-year loan, that you're saving $18,000 over 5 years if you were able to carry forward that credit for all those years. So it's really a big benefit. And just to give credit where credit is due, a lot of credit goes to Senator Rodrick and Representative Schmid, who made this a priority during the negotiations in this you know, kind of joint legislative House-Senate legislative body. And then I work with representatives from the Watershed Association, the Westport River Watershed Association, which really took on an advocacy role and was able to gather signatures from multiple environmental and river system organizations and the other boards of health that are part of our regional collaborative here, all to sign letters to send to the legislators about how important this was. So I think now it's sitting on the governor's desk. I feel pretty confident that it will get adopted, and then we'll be probably writing about it to give people, you know, guidance as to how it's going to work. But I think it should really provide a means to alleviate some of the financial burden of system upgrades, which will be very welcome, I'm sure. So that's that.
And that's great news.
Yeah, it is, because
Yeah.
it's a fair amount of money, $18,000. If you have a $30,000 system, you'll get back out of that, so.
And so would it be for this fiscal year if it gets signed?
So the way it is, the tax reduction starts when the system is completed. So the first year, so
Okay.
if you, that's what triggers it. So, so you're gonna have to lay out the money to get the system designed and installed, but then in the subsequent years, you'll be able to take off, depending on your taxable income and the cost of the system,
Right, so
a
my,
maximum of $18,000.
yeah, so my question was more, if this is signed,
Yeah.
would it be for, so if somebody put in a system this year, would they be able to apply that in the taxes when they do the taxes? their
Yeah,
taxes in-
I don't know. I don't know why not, I guess. I don't know what
Okay,
the
so it's-
effective date,
All right.
what the effective date of the legislation is, but, yeah, so I guess if it was done, if it was completed before the end of 2023, then, and, you know, and then you had until next April to file your tax return, I think you could do it if your system was completed, got a certificate of completion from the board.
That'll make a lot of people who are putting systems in. Yeah.
We're getting those questions, those are the most common question I'm getting, will apply to this tax year. But if it's not, I don't know how to answer, so if it's not signed
Yeah.
until January 3rd of next year, would it go
Yeah.
retro to this tax year?
It's pretty rare that legislation goes retroactive in that way, but I don't know. I think that what will trigger it is the construction, when the construction completion date is, because the way that the current statute is written is that the tax credit becomes obtainable as of the date of it's constructed. So it's not unusual, like if you, I believe this is the case, that you can always go back and amend your tax return if something comes along to your benefit, right? So it could be if you said, well, I didn't take this deduction that was available because this is an increase in the amount of the deduction, but this legislation's been on the books for many years. So it could be, I don't think you probably could go back and say, well, I took the last 2 or 3 years and now I want to go back and up it. But if you hadn't taken it, and now this was the current rule, I think what will happen is that there's currently a Department of Revenue, bulletin or guideline on this, and so it may come out, and I think we could take it on ourselves to inquire, and so you'll be able to give the answer to people.
Well, I think that once we get it clarified too,
Yeah.
Would you be
Yeah.
writing a Shorelines article regarding this?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So, but it's good news, and there were a lot of people involved in making it happen and improving it. And there's some other, just to say one other thing about it, is that the previous legislation had this offset so that if you were getting a loan that benefited from, let's say, a community septic loan that had an advantageous interest rate, that advantage would reduce your septic tax credit. So, and it's kind of complicated how they figured that out. But I'm saying if effectively you were getting a 5% loan from us, but the effective rate was 7%, the benefit that you got in the interest rate would be deducted from the tax credit. That was eliminated. So there's no offset from getting, a low interest loan or a lower interest loan. So that was another good thing. Okay. So that is, do you have anything to report other than being drowned out on Cow Day?
Oh, for board member updates?
Yeah, board member updates.
Yeah, there was no Team Cow because of the weather. As everyone experienced, it was a really rainy weekend. And so they made a decision to not do one this fall, but to schedule the one for the spring in April, and it will be on April, as of now, it's April 6th of 2024. And I guess we could do a little talking about the CRC meeting, the resilience, the climate resilience committee meetings. There were 2 this past week. One was for the water subcommittee, and then one was for the committee, the larger committee, and sort of discussing, pulling together every committee's research and understanding related to Westport and how climate is impacting or may impact Westport, and then what do we do about that, and how do we plan for that? So I did go to the Science Cafe, had a speaker on climate impact, heat's impact in climate change, and the focus was on, there were many focuses, but one of them was on health, and that more people die from heat-related issues from climate change than, say, from flooding. So that's something that we've been kind of proactive on already on the committee, the subcommittee. Phil has written about heat and did that in a Shorelines article. And so as a alternate member of the CRC and of the Climate Resiliency Health Subcommittee, certainly we are, have presented, Phil has presented our summary to the CRC already, and other subcommittees are formulating their plans. So I thought it was the CRC meeting was a good, productive meeting. And then, of course, you brought up a very important point, which
I don't remember what my important point
it
was.
had to do with some mosquito issues.
Oh, yeah. Well, just, I think was reported last week, and message was sent around, there was a mosquito that was tested and West Nile virus in Westport, and found to be carrying West Nile virus, and kind of in a big picture way kind of emphasized the fact that increasing climate-related conditions of heat and increased precipitation promotes the transmission through insects of diseases that were much more associated with tropical and southern climates, and so we just need to begin to realize that is going to be an increasingly normal aspect of the summer season, and so as it continues to remain warm, and until a significant frost comes along, people should be really conscious about wearing mosquito repellent, particularly at the times of day when mosquitoes come out, because you definitely do not want to be a person who ends up carrying West Nile virus.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
We've had no reported cases of anyone being sick, but we just.
No human cases.
No human cases.
Yeah, last week we got the report of the mosquito that tested positive. We posted it on our webpage and sent out the alert, but no human cases yet in Westport. We are going to ramp up our education on protection from mosquitoes and all that, so you'll start seeing that this week.
great.
It is 4:30.
Yes, it is 4:30. So, well, we know we're going to have one continuance, so why don't we go to 14 Banner Ave?
Well, hang on one second. Are you here for George? So
Okay.
we sent George a message to continue this one until the 16th at, so I got a message from Nancy. So we're going to continue it to the 16th at 4:55
Okay.
p.m.
Okay, so I move,
Yeah, Nancy, I guess, has been communicating with him, our office, somebody else like that.
do we have a reason we're continuing it?
George isn't here, and I don't know where we stand on the whole discrepancy thing. If you want more time to flush out what we talked about earlier.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think we just need to clarify what the status of the site is in terms of the rules regarding construction of septic systems in velocity zones.
Okay.
And so, we kind of focused on the VE zone aspect of it under Title V, but it was clarified as to the location how the site is characterized. So anyway, we'll figure it out.
Okay. All right, so
And
I move that we continue this appointment for 36 First Street to October 16th at 4:45.
4:55.
Oops, 4:55 p.m.
Okay.
And you second it, Phil?
Second, sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks.
I don't think you. Yeah, I was doing him a favor, that's cool. So,
Yeah.
Are you gonna present it?
no.
No, he's there for 14 Banner.
Yeah, 14 banner.
Oh, didn't you both?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
I thought you looked familiar. We were
Yeah.
there the last time.
first time, last time, yeah. Good. All right, Shane Souza, South Coast Engineering, here as a continuance for septic repair located on 14 Banner Avenue. In the last meeting, I presented that it's an existing two-bedroom house, and the requested local upgrade approvals was setback distances to 3 wells are within 100-foot radius. The proposed repair is a conventional septic system to a pump chamber and an ARC-36 leaching field. In the last meeting, there was a question in regards to, because we had applied for a waiver for maximum feasible compliance waiver, due to the existing home and the constraints that we had, and for financial reasoning. And we did speak with the homeowner, and she will be installing a whole home water filtration system because of the nitrogen levels that came in the water analysis. I believe they were 10.7 milligrams per liter. So she will be putting that, and I did place it on the plan as a red note as part of the construction of the septic repair at this site. And I believe the note says, you know, it'll be done before construction, most likely will be done concurrently.
Is it in,
It's over here in red.
oh, okay.
Yeah,
And
no,
Okay,
the
got it,
first thing,
great.
attention number 1,
Okay, good. Yep. Okay,
because I did review, I knew that this was on, and I
Yeah,
reviewed
yeah.
and looked and see what we had wanted him to do.
Yes.
Wanted them to do, because of the extreme nitrogen levels
Right,
in
10.7.
all the sites,
Yep.
where one property was at 10.7, another one was at 9.97, one had another neighbor has coliform, which, do we get those letters out yet, or?
We did.
Okay, good. So there's concern about the water
course.
quality, and so that's great that she was in agreement to do this for herself.
Absolutely.
and also the well is just a shade over 50 feet from
Yeah, a
from the
shade,
system.
a
So-
shade, right,
So
right.
I think
so-
that's also contributed a lot to the situation, so.
Do you have
And it
any-
didn't seem to be any place to relocate the well that would have really made a difference. So,
Yeah.
okay,
Do you have anything to say, Matt?
I know, I mean, it came back because of the whole house treatment for the nitrates, and so that's on. I just think now, we have to, last time we didn't do the motion or anything like
Right.
that, so with the variances and all that stuff.
I'm prepared to make a motion
go ahead.
without moving. So I move that we approve the plan for 14 Banner Ave for Anna Torres, revised date 9/24/23, for a 2-bedroom repair, with the following variances. One, the reduction of the offset from the SAS to the well for the house at 240 to, I'm going to say this differently so Bob doesn't get confused by me. Reduction of the offset of the SAS to the well of 50.6 feet at the address of 240. And reduction of the SAS to the well of 93.5 feet for address 241.
Excuse me.
Is it address or is it?
That's the
No,
lot
The
number.
lot
Yeah.
number.
Those aren't the actual
Yeah.
I'm sorry, the
So it's
lot number, Bob.
14, 10, and 24, I think, are the
Okay.
three.
All right,
And
and then the last one is reduction in the offset of the SAS to the well of 83.9 feet for the lots 231 to 233, with the following conditions: a hold harmless agreement, a two-bedroom deed restriction, Concom review, and I believe we need 2 years of well testing for all the properties?
3 years.
3 years of well testing, sorry. And and acknowledging the added whole home nitrogen removal filtration system to be installed prior to the SAS construction.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Okay. So do we have any other business? I don't think so. Okay.
All right, so that being no other business, I move that we adjourn this meeting at 4:38 PM.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.